Dr. So-Jin Park stared at the screen in her small lab aboard the research ship Harmony's Edge. Strange signals had been coming from the Kepler 442 star system for 3 days now. The computer was still trying to understand what they meant. She rubbed her tired eyes and took another sip of cold coffee. The translation program beeped. New words appeared on the screen. Please, anyone, help us. So-Jin sat up straight. This was the first time the computer had made sense of the alien language. She quickly saved the file and kept listening. More words came through over the next hour. The message was broken, but the meaning was clear. Someone was asking for help. Someone was dying. Emergency. Great enemy. Consuming our worlds. Please send aid. So-Jin's hands shook as she recorded everything. This was first contact with an alien species, but it was not the happy meeting that scientists had dreamed about. This was a cry for help from across the stars. She called Captain Lee Dong-wook to her lab. He was a serious man who rarely showed emotion, but when he heard the translation, his face went pale. Are you sure about this? He asked. The computer is 90% certain, So-Jin said. Someone out there is under attack. They're asking anyone who can hear them to send help. Captain Lee looked at the star charts. Kepler 442 was 200 light-years away. Even with their fastest ships, it would take months to get there. Send this to Earth immediately, he ordered. Priority Alpha. The Defense Council needs to see this. While the message traveled back to Earth, So-Jin kept working on the translation. More details came through. The aliens called themselves the Valeth. They lived on floating cities made of crystal. They had been peaceful for thousands of years, but now something called the Devourers had found them. The Devourers ate everything. They learned from every fight. They got stronger with each world they destroyed. The Valeth had tried to fight back. They had powerful weapons and strong defenses. Nothing worked. The Devourers adapted to everything. They turned the Valeth's own weapons against them. 90% of our people are gone, one message said. Our great cities fall silent one by one. If anyone receives this message, please remember us. Please remember that the Valeth tried to be good. So-Jin felt tears in her eyes. She had studied alien languages for 20 years, hoping to talk with other intelligent life. Now the first conversation was a goodbye. On Earth, the United Terran Defense Council met in emergency session. The big table in Geneva was full of worried faces. Admiral Kang Ho-seok read the translated messages aloud. The Valeth described the Devourers as a species that consumes other civilizations, he said. They eat the people, steal their knowledge, and move on to the next world. General Lee Min-ho shook his head. This could be a trap. We know nothing about these aliens. Why should we risk human lives for strangers? Because it's the right thing to do, said Dr. Kim Soo-jin from the Science Division. She was So-Jin's older sister and had worked with alien artifacts for years. We found evidence of the Devourers before. Ancient ruins on 17 dead worlds all tell the same story. A hungry species that eats civilizations. She put images on the big screen. Pictures of empty cities on dead planets. Writing on walls that told of the same enemy. The same fear. The same ending. The Devourers are real, Dr. Kim said. And if they finish with the Valeth, they might come looking for new hunting grounds. Earth could be next. The room was quiet. Everyone understood what that meant. Admiral Kang stood up. What do the Valeth want from us? Dr. Kim checked her notes. They're asking for advanced weapons. Energy shields. Faster-than-light communicators. They think technology will save them. General Lee laughed, but it was not a happy sound. They want us to give them our best weapons? Our most secret technology? For people we've never met? They're desperate, Admiral Kang said quietly. Wouldn't we ask for the same thing? The debate went on for hours. Some leaders wanted to help. Others thought it was too dangerous. Earth's military was already stretched thin, protecting human colonies from space pirates and hostile aliens. Finally, President Chen Wei-ming called for a vote. All in favor of sending aid to the Valeth? Hands went up around the table. Not all of them, but enough. The motion passes, the president said. We will help the Valeth, but not the way they asked. General Lee frowned. What do you mean? President Chen smiled, but it was the smile of a predator. They asked for weapons and shields. Those things can be stolen or copied. The devourers will just adapt to them. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of Geneva sparkled in the darkness. We won't send them technology, he said. We'll send them something the devourers have never seen before. Something they can't copy or steal or adapt to. What's that? Admiral Kang asked. President. Chen turned back to face the room. We'll send them humans. The room exploded in arguments. Voices rose as leaders shouted at each other. Some called it brilliant. Others called it suicide. General Lee slammed his hand on the table. You want to send our people to fight an unknown enemy on the other side of the galaxy? An enemy that has destroyed an entire civilization? Not just any people, President Chen said calmly. We'll send our best, our most dangerous, our apex, predators. Dr. Kim understood first. You mean the military? I mean the soldiers, President Chen corrected. The ones who chose to fight. The ones who trained their whole lives to hunt and kill. The devourers think they're the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Let's show them what a real predator looks like. Admiral Kang nodded slowly. It could work. The Valeth are asking for tools, but sometimes the best tool is a person who knows how to use it. And if we lose? General Lee asked. If our people die fighting for strangers? President Chen's smile faded. Then they die doing what soldiers do. They die protecting the innocent. They die making sure that evil doesn't spread. The final vote was closer. But it passed. 3 days later, recruitment centers across Earth put out a special call. Volunteers only. Dangerous mission, unknown enemy, possible one-way trip. The response was overwhelming. Marines wanted to go. Army Rangers wanted to go. Navy SEALs wanted to go. Special forces from every nation lined up to volunteer. Colonel Park Jae-sung was chosen to lead the mission. He had fought in the Proxima Wars and the Titan Rebellion. He was known for winning battles that should have been lost. How many troops do you need? Admiral Kang asked him. Colonel Park thought for a moment. Give me 5,000 of your best killers. 5,000? The Valeth are asking for help against an enemy that destroyed billions. Don't you think you need more? Colonel Park shook his head. Sir, you don't understand. We're not going there to fight a war. We're going there to hunt, and humans are very good at hunting. Back on the research ship, Sojin picked up a new message from the Valeth. It was weaker than before, more desperate. Please hurry, it said. We have perhaps weeks left. The crystal cities are going dark one by one. Soon there will be no one left to hear your answer. She typed a response and sent it toward the Kepler 442 system. It would take the message 4 years to get there at light speed. But maybe the Valeth would still be alive to receive it. Message received, help is coming, hold on. She didn't tell them what kind of help Earth was sending. She didn't think they would understand. After all, the Valeth had asked for weapons and shields and technology. They had asked for tools to help them fight. Earth was sending them something much better than tools. Earth was sending them its Deathbringers. Luna Station buzzed with activity like a kicked anthill. Ships moved in and out of the docking bays. Soldiers marched through the corridors. Equipment was loaded and checked and loaded again. Colonel Park Jae-sung stood in the main hangar, watching. His troops prepare. These were not ordinary soldiers. These were the best humanity had to offer. Each one had volunteered to fly across the galaxy to fight an unknown enemy. Sir, the final roster is complete, said his aide, Lieutenant Bae Sun-ho. He handed over a datapad with thousands of names. Park read through the list. Each name represented years of training. Hundreds of battles. Countless hours of preparation. For this moment, Sergeant Kim Do-hyun led the Voidstalkers. They were specialists in zero-gravity combat. They could fight inside spaceships on asteroid surfaces or in the empty space between worlds. Kim had been born on a space station. He was more comfortable floating than walking. My people are ready, Colonel, Kim reported. We've practiced boarding actions on 17 different alien ship designs. We can crack open anything that floats. Captain Yoon Si-woo commanded the Devastators. They were urban warfare experts. They knew how to fight in cities, underground tunnels, and narrow spaces. Yoon had learned his skills in the underground wars on Mars. "Give us a city to clear, and we'll clear it," Yoon said simply. "Doesn't matter what's living there." Lieutenant Choi Yoon-ji headed the Phantom Battalion. They were reconnaissance specialists, scouts, spies, the invisible soldiers who watched and waited and struck without warning. Choi could hide in places that didn't seem big enough for a person. "We'll be their eyes and ears," she promised, "and their nightmares." But the most important member of the team was Dr. Han Soo-young. She was not a soldier. She was a scientist who studied alien life forms. But she had also served as a combat medic in the Outer Colony Wars. She knew how to save lives and how to take them. "I've studied every piece of information about the Devourers," she told Colonel Park. "They adapt by consuming genetic material. They learn from their enemies. But adaptation takes time. If we hit them fast and hard enough, we might stay ahead of their learning curve." Colonel Park nodded. "What else do we know?" Dr. Han pulled up holographic displays of devourer specimens. The creatures looked like nightmares made real. Part machine, part animal, all predator. "They're collective hunters," she explained. "They share information instantly across their entire species. When one learns something, they all learn it. That makes them very dangerous. But it also makes them predictable," Colonel Park realized. "If they all think the same way, they'll all make the same mistakes." Dr. Han smiled. "Exactly. And humans are very good at making enemies make mistakes." The expedition force was loading onto 2 massive ships. The Indomitable Will was a converted colony transport. The Righteous Fury was an old battleship stripped down to carry troops instead of weapons. Neither ship looked impressive. That was on purpose. If the Devourers were watching, they would see what appeared to be refugees fleeing Earth. They would not see the most dangerous military force humanity had ever assembled. Admiral Kang came to see them off. He walked through the hangar, stopping to talk with soldiers. Each conversation was short but personal. He knew many of these people had volunteered for what might be a suicide mission. "Colonel Park," the Admiral said, "are your people ready?" "As ready as anyone can be for the impossible." "Sir." Admiral Kang nodded. "The latest reports from the Valeth are not good. They've lost another crystal city. At this rate, they have maybe 2 weeks left." "How long to reach them?" 3 weeks if everything goes perfectly. 4 if we run into problems. Colonel. Park did the math. They would arrive just in time to watch the Valeth die. Or maybe just in time to save them. "Sir, may I ask a question?" Colonel Park said. "Of course. Why didn't we send a bigger force? We could have mobilized entire fleets, brought our best weapons, made this a proper military operation." Admiral Kang was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know what the Devourers fear most, Colonel?" "I would assume superior firepower." "No, they've faced superior firepower before. Every species they've consumed had better weapons than the last. The Devourers learned to counter all of them." The Admiral pointed at the soldiers loading equipment. "What they've never faced is us, humans. A species that evolved on a planet where everything tried to kill us. A species that learned to hunt by being hunted." He turned to look directly at Colonel Park. "We're not sending you there to fight a war. Wars can be lost. We're sending you there to hunt, and humans don't lose when we hunt." The loading finished just as new messages arrived from the Kepler 442 system. Dr. So-Jin had managed to establish better communication with the surviving Valeth. The news was worse than expected. High Counselor Terex, the leader of the remaining Valeth, sent a desperate plea. "The Devourers have breached our final defensive line. They are consuming our last populated cities. We have perhaps days, not weeks." But there was more. "We have learned something terrible. The Devourers are not just destroying us for food. They are studying us, learning our technologies, our culture, our history. We believe they are preparing for something larger." Dr. Han read the report with growing concern. "Colonel, if the Devourers are using the Valeth as a testing ground, they might be preparing to attack other systems." "Including Earth?" "Including Earth." Colonel Park called his senior staff together. Change of plans. This is no longer a rescue mission. This is a hunting expedition. We're going to kill every devourer in that system. Captain Yoon raised his hand. Sir, with respect, we have 5,000 troops. The devourers destroyed a civilization of billions. How exactly are we supposed to kill them all? Colonel Park smiled. It was not a nice smile. Captain, how many wolves does it take to kill a flock of sheep? I don't understand, sir. It doesn't matter how many sheep there are. Sheep are prey. Wolves are predators. Numbers don't change that basic fact. Sergeant Kim nodded. The devourers have been hunting. Civilized species, peaceful species. They've never hunted hunters. Exactly, Colonel Park said. Every species they've faced tried to defend themselves, tried to protect their people and their cities and their way of life. That made them predictable. Lieutenant Choi grinned. But we're not going there to defend anything. We're going there to attack everything. Dr. Han pulled up tactical displays. The devourers adapt to threats they understand. Energy weapons, kinetic weapons, chemical weapons, biological weapons. They've seen it all. But they've never seen human tactics, Colonel Park realized. They've never faced an enemy that thinks like a predator instead of prey. The ships finished final preparations. The quantum drives were charged and ready. Navigation computers plotted the route to Kepler 442. It would take them through empty space, past dead systems, across the dark gulf between stars. Colonel Park addressed his troops over the ship's communication system. Listen carefully. We are about to travel 1,200 light-years to fight an enemy that has destroyed entire civilizations. An enemy that learns from every battle and adapts to every weapon. The ships were quiet. 5,000 soldiers listened. The aliens were going to help think we're bringing them advanced technology. They think we're bringing them super weapons. They're wrong. He paused. We are the super weapon. We are what happens when evolution builds the perfect hunter and gives it intelligence. The quantum drives powered up. Space began to bend around the ships. The devourers have spent eons eating sheep, Colonel Park continued. Today they meet the wolves. The ships jumped to faster-than-light speed. Behind them, Earth grew small and distant. Ahead of them lay the unknown, but the soldiers of humanity were not afraid. They had trained for this their entire lives. They were going hunting. And humans were very, very good at hunting. The human ships dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. What they saw made even the hardest soldiers stop and stare. The system was dying. Massive bioships floated around the Valeth homeworld like giant parasites. Each one was the size of a small moon, covered in organic growths that pulsed with sickly light. They were feeding on the planet below. Jesus Christ, whispered Sergeant Kim as he looked at the sensor readings. There must be 50 of those things. Colonel Park studied the tactical display. The Valeth crystal cities that should have sparkled, like jewels in space, were dark and empty. Only 3 still showed signs of life. Signal from one of the remaining stations, reported Communications Officer Lee Nari. They're asking us to identify ourselves. Put them through. The main screen flickered to life. A tall, thin alien appeared. Its skin was translucent and shifted colors like an oil slick. Right now it was deep purple, which Dr. Han said meant despair. I am High Counselor Terex of the Valeth, the alien said in broken but understandable English. Are you the ones who answered our call for help? We are, Colonel Park replied. I am Colonel Park of Earth's military forces. Terex's skin shifted to a confused yellow color. Where are your warships? Your weapons? We asked for advanced technology to fight the devourers. Colonel Park looked around his small command bridge. It didn't look very impressive compared to the massive alien ships on the screen. We brought something better than technology, he said calmly. We brought soldiers. Soldiers? Terex's skin turned orange with confusion. You brought people, living beings, to fight the devourers. 5,000 of our best. Terex was quiet for a long moment. Behind him, other Valeth were talking rapidly in their own language. Dr. Han's translation system was picking up words like insane and suicide and doomed. Colonel Park, Tarek said carefully, I think you do not understand. The Devourers have consumed 90% of our civilization. We had billions of people and the most advanced weapons in our sector of the galaxy. We could destroy planets with our energy cannons. And yet you lost. Yes, we lost because the Devourers adapt. They learn from everything we throw at them. They become immune to our weapons. They turn our own technology against us. Colonel Park nodded. Counselor, may I ask you something? Of course, in all your wars, did you ever fight another living species? Another intelligent race? Terek's skin shifted to a thoughtful blue. No. The Valeth have been peaceful for 1,000 years. We fought only defensive wars against mindless beasts or automated defenses. I see. And the Devourers, have they fought other intelligent predators? I do not understand the question. Dr. Han stepped forward. Counselor, from what we've learned, the Devourers consume civilized species, peaceful builders, people who create cities and art and technology. Is that correct? Yes. They are attracted to advanced civilizations, but never to hunter-gatherers, never to primitive predators, never to species that are still wild. Terex paused. How did you know that? Dr. Han smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. Because we've studied the ruins they left behind. 17 dead worlds, all with the same story. The Devourers only attack advanced, peaceful species. She pulled up a holographic display showing human evolution. Pictures of early humans hunting mammoths, cave paintings of tribal warfare, modern soldiers in combat. Humans are different, she explained. We never stopped being predators. We built cities and technology, but we kept our hunting instincts. We are civilized on the outside but wild on the inside. Tarek stared at the images. You are saying your species still fights? Still hunts? Even with advanced technology? We fight each other, Colonel Park said bluntly. We've had wars that killed millions. We've built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We are not a peaceful species. That is terrible, Terex whispered. Yes, Colonel Park agreed. But today, it's also useful. The human ships moved closer to the surviving Valeth station, called Sorrow's Light. As they approached, Devourer bioships began to change course. They were coming to investigate. Counselor, we need to dock with your station, Colonel Park said. My people need to study the Devourers up close. It is too dangerous. The Devourers will attack your ships. Good. We want them to attack. Terex's skin went white with shock. You want them to attack? Why? Because we need to see how they fight. And they need to see how we fight back. The first Devourer scout ship was about the size of a human destroyer. It moved through space like a living thing, undulating and twisting. Its surface was covered in sensor organs that looked like eyes. It fired some kind of bioenergy weapon at the indomitable will. The shot hit the ship's shields and did no damage. Their weapons are designed to drain energy from crystal-based technology, Dr. Han observed. Our metal hulls and fusion reactors are probably immune. The Devourer scout moved closer, trying to understand why its weapon had failed. That was a mistake. Sergeant Kim and his Void Stalkers were waiting in airlocks along the ship's hull. When the scout got close enough, they launched themselves into space using personal jetpacks. The Devourers had never seen anything like it. Tiny figures in metal suits flying through the vacuum of space, moving too fast and too small for the bioship's weapons to track. Kim's team landed on the scout's hull and immediately began cutting through it with plasma torches. The Devourers inside tried to adapt, growing thicker armor around the breach points, but the humans just moved to new locations. In minutes, the scout ship was dead. Its body went limp and began drifting. On the Valeth station, Terex watched in amazement. How did they do that? They didn't attack the ship, Dr. Han explained. They attacked the creature. Humans are very good at killing individual targets. More Devourer ships were approaching, larger ones. The bioships began communicating with each other using flashing patterns of light. They're sharing information about our attack, Dr. Han said. By tomorrow, every devourer in the system will know how to counter our boarding tactics. So what do we do? Asked Captain Yoon. Colonel Park smiled. We do something completely different tomorrow. The human ships docked with Sorrow's light station. The first thing the soldiers did was set up defensive positions. The second thing was to start studying captured devourer specimens in the station's laboratories. Dr. Han worked through the night, dissecting the alien creatures. What she found was both fascinating and disturbing. They're not just biological, she told Colonel Park. They're biomechanical. Part evolved creature, part living machine. But the important thing is how they adapt. She showed him microscopic images of devourer cells. They adapt by consuming genetic material from their enemies and integrating useful traits. It's like instant evolution. How long does the process take? Depends on the complexity. Simple adaptations happen in hours. Complex ones might take days or weeks. Colonel Park nodded. So if we keep changing our tactics faster than they can adapt, we might stay ahead of them. But it will be difficult. They learn from every encounter. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Choi and her Phantom Battalion were conducting reconnaissance missions to the planet's surface. What they found was worse than anyone had expected. The Devourers were not just consuming the Valeth civilization. They were cataloging it, studying it, learning everything about Valeth technology, culture, and biology. Sir, I think this is a testing ground, Choi reported. The Devourers are using the Valeth to test new adaptations and tactics. Testing for what? For their next target, and based on the communication intercepts Dr. Han translated, they're very interested in the galactic trade routes. Colonel Park understood immediately. They're planning to spread, to attack other systems, including the routes back to Earth. The situation was worse than they thought. This wasn't just about saving the Valeth. This was about stopping an invasion force before it could threaten human space. Colonel Park called his senior staff together. New mission parameters. We're not just here to rescue the Valeth. We're here to make sure the Devourers never leave this system. Sir, there are thousands of them, Captain Yoon pointed out. Maybe tens of thousands. Then we better get started. Outside the station, more Devourer bioships were gathering. They had adapted to the humans' boarding tactics and were growing new defenses. But they were still curious about these strange new enemies. That curiosity would be their downfall, because while the Devourers were studying humans, humans were studying them right back, and humans had been studying how to kill things for a very long time. The first real battle began at dawn on Valeth Prime's northern continent, or what the Valeth called dawn. Their sun was red and dim, casting strange shadows across the crystal ruins of what had once been a great city. Colonel Park stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Will watching the tactical displays. Below them, Devourer ground forces were moving through the dead city like a living carpet. Millions of creatures, all connected, all thinking together. Conventional wisdom says we should hit them with orbital bombardment, said Captain Yoon. Destroy them from space before they can adapt. And next time they'll have better shields, Colonel Park replied. No, we're going to do something they won't expect. He opened a communication channel to all units. Attention all teams, remember what we discussed. We are not fighting a war, we are hunting. Hunters don't announce themselves. They stalk, they wait, they strike when their prey is vulnerable. Sergeant Kim's Void Stalkers were already in position. They had used small stealth pods to land on the outskirts of the city during the night. Now they lay hidden in the crystal rubble, watching the Devourers move past them. It's like watching ants, Kim whispered into his radio. They move in perfect patterns, no individual thought. That's their weakness, replied Dr. Han from the ship. Collective intelligence is efficient, but it's also predictable. The Devourers expected humans to attack like the Valeth had. Energy weapons from a distance, shields and defensive positions, a proper civilized battle. Instead, Kim's team waited until a group of Devourer scouts separated from the main force. Then they struck. The attack lasted less than 30 seconds. 12 Devourer creatures died before they even knew they were under attack. But the important thing was how they died. Kim's team didn't use energy weapons or explosives. They used knives, monomolecular blades that could cut through anything. The Devourers' adaptation systems couldn't learn from weapons that were just very sharp pieces of metal. First blood to us, Kim reported. But the real surprise came when the Devourer Collective tried to adapt. They shared the information about the attack instantly. Every creature in the system learned about the monomolecular weapons in minutes. They grew thicker skin, harder armor, better reflexes. It didn't matter. Lieutenant Choi's Phantom Battalion struck next. They didn't use monomolecular blades. They used crossbows. Ancient human weapons that fired sharp bolts using spring tension. The Devourer's new armor was designed to stop metal blades. It didn't stop wooden bolts moving at high speed. Second strike successful, Choi reported. 20 targets down. The collective adapted again. This time they grew armor that could stop both cutting weapons and projectiles. They thought they had learned from the humans. Captain Yoon's Devastators proved them wrong. The Devastators didn't attack the Devourers directly. Instead, they attacked the environment around them. They used controlled explosives to bring down crystal buildings on top of the creatures. They diverted underground water flows to create muddy traps. They used the city's own structure as a weapon. Physics is physics, Yoon explained to his confused alien observers. Doesn't matter how tough you are. 1,000,000 tons of falling crystal will still crush you. High Counselor Terex watched the battles from his station. He had never seen warfare like this. The humans didn't fight like civilized beings. They fought like wild animals with advanced tools. I do not understand, he said to Dr. Han. Your people change tactics with every attack. How do you coordinate without a collective consciousness? Dr. Han smiled. We don't coordinate. We improvise. Each team leader makes independent decisions based on the situation. But how do you prevent them from interfering with each other? We don't. Sometimes we do interfere with each other. Sometimes our own tactics work against us. But that unpredictability is what makes us dangerous. Terex's skin shifted to a worried orange. You are saying that you deliberately make your forces less efficient? Less efficient, but more unpredictable. The Devourers can't adapt to tactics they can't predict. On the planet below, the Devourer Collective was getting frustrated. Every time they adapted to one human tactic, the humans switched to something completely different, something that didn't make sense. Some humans attacked with knives, others used explosives, still others just hid and waited for the Devourers to walk into carefully prepared traps. The worst part was that the humans seemed to be enjoying themselves. Radio intercepts showed them laughing during battles, making jokes while their enemies died. This was not how civilized species were supposed to behave. Dr. Han was studying the captured Devourers in her laboratory when she made an important discovery. The creatures were showing signs of stress. Not physical stress from the battles, but psychological stress. Colonel, you need to see this, she called. Colonel Park came to the lab, where Dr. Han was examining a Devourer specimen under a microscope. Look at these chemical markers, she said, pointing to the screen. The creature is producing stress hormones, lots of them. Stress from what? Fear. Colonel Park stared at her. Are you telling me that these things are afraid of us? Not just afraid, terrified. Their entire psychology is based on being apex predators. They've never encountered anything that hunts them back. She pulled up more data. In every battle, they expect to adapt and overcome. But we keep changing faster than they can adapt. It's breaking their collective confidence. Good, Colonel, Park said simply. But Dr. Han wasn't finished. There's more. The fear is affecting their adaptation process. Stressed organisms don't adapt as efficiently. Their survival instincts are starting to override their learning instincts, meaning they're starting to act like prey animals instead of predators. This gave Colonel Park an idea. A terrible, wonderful idea. He called Lieutenant Choi on the radio. I have a new mission for your phantoms. Yes, sir. I want you to start a psychological warfare campaign. Make the Devourers afraid to go anywhere alone. Make them jump at shadows. Make them paranoid. Choi's voice carried a grin. Sir, My people wrote the book on psychological warfare. Over the next few days, the Phantom Battalion began a campaign of terror against the Devourers. They didn't always attack to kill. Sometimes they attacked just to frighten. They would wound a Devourer and let it escape, knowing it would share its fear with the collective. They would leave human scent markers in areas where Devourers had been killed. They would play recordings of human voices in the ruins where the creatures liked to feed. Most disturbing of all, they began displaying the bodies of dead Devourers in specific patterns that triggered deep-rooted prey instincts. "It's working," Dr. Han reported after a week of battles. "The Devourers are changing their behavior. They're staying together in larger groups. They're avoiding areas where humans have been. They're acting like hunted animals." High Counselor Terex was horrified when he learned what the humans were doing. "You are torturing them psychologically. This is not civilized warfare." "No," Colonel Park agreed. "It's not civilized, it's effective. But surely there must be rules, standards, ways that intelligent species should behave toward each other." Colonel E.O. Park looked at the alien leader with eyes that had seen too many battles. "Counselor, your people had rules, standards, civilized ways of fighting. How did that work out for you?" Terex was quiet. "The Devourers don't follow your rules, Colonel," Park continued. "They eat entire civilizations. They turn children into food and culture into experiments. You want me to fight them politely?" I understand your point. But this seems so cruel." "Yes." Colonel Park nodded. "It is cruel, but you know what else is cruel? Letting them escape to eat the next civilization they find. Letting them perfect their techniques by practicing on your people." He pointed to the tactical displays showing Devourer movements. "Look at them. They're scared. For the first time in their existence, they know what it feels like to be prey. Maybe that will make them think twice before attacking the next peaceful species they encounter." But the real test was yet to come. The Devourers were adapting to human psychological warfare just like they had adapted to everything else. They were developing resistance to fear. Soon, the humans would have to escalate again, and Colonel Park was already planning the next phase of the hunt. Because humans didn't just know how to frighten their prey, they knew how to break it completely. 2 weeks into the campaign, the humans controlled 3 of the 7 continents on Valeth Prime. But Dr. Han was worried. "They're adapting faster than we expected," she told Colonel Park in his temporary command post. The post was built inside a crashed Valeth crystal city, giving them good protection and excellent communications. She showed him the latest analysis of captured Devourers. "Look at these brain scans. They're developing resistance to psychological stress. They're learning to ignore fear." Colonel Park studied the data. The creatures were still afraid, but they were fighting through the fear instead of running from it. How long before they adapt completely? Maybe a week, maybe less. Outside, the sounds of battle echoed across the crystal plains. Captain Yoon's Devastators were fighting a running battle with a Devourer hive that had learned to counter their building collapse tactics. "Sir," came Yoon's voice over the radio. "The enemy is using our own techniques against us. They're bringing down buildings to trap my people." This was the problem with fighting an adaptive enemy. Every successful tactic eventually became a weapon in their hands. Colonel Park made a decision that would have horrified most military commanders. "All units, this is command. Authorization Code 7. Implement Protocol 7 immediately." There was silence on all communication channels. Protocol 7 was something no one talked about. Something that was only used when everything else had failed. "Sir," Lieutenant Choi's voice was careful. "Are you sure about Protocol 7? "I'm sure. Execute immediately." Protocol 7 was simple in concept and horrifying in practice. Instead of fighting the Devourers, the humans were going to join them. Sergeant Kim led the first Protocol 7 mission. His target was the largest bioship in orbit around Valeth Prime, a massive creature that served as a communication hub for the entire Devourer collective, but Kim wasn't going to attack the ship. He was going to get inside it and stay there. His team used stealth pods to approach the bioship. Instead of cutting through the hull like before, They found natural openings, breathing pores, waste outlets, places where the ship's biological systems connected to space. "Remember," Dr. Han told them over the radio, "you're not invaders anymore, you're parasites." Kim and his team slipped inside the bioship like bacteria entering a bloodstream. The ship's immune system tried to fight them, but human technology was too alien for it to understand. They moved through the creature's internal passages, following the circulatory system toward the brain. Along the way, they planted small devices that Dr. Han had designed. "Virus uploaded," Kim reported when they reached the central nervous system. "Beginning Phase 2. Phase 2 was the part that Dr. Han hadn't explained to the Valeth. The virus wasn't designed to destroy the bioship's computer systems. It was designed to make the ship sick. Not sick enough to die, just sick enough to slow down. Within hours, the massive bioship began showing symptoms. It moved sluggishly. Its weapons fired inaccurately. Its communication with other devourers became confused and delayed. But the important thing was that it kept working. The Devourer Collective didn't realize one of their major ships was compromised. "Brilliant," High Counselor Tarek said when Dr. Han explained what they had done. "You have sabotaged their communications without them knowing it." "That's just the beginning," Dr. Han replied. More human teams began infiltrating other bioships, not to destroy them but to infect them, to make them unreliable, to turn the Devourer's own network against them. The virus Dr. Han had created was based on human cold viruses, simple, adaptable, and very good at spreading. The Devourers tried to adapt to it, but that was the beauty of Dr. Han's design. Every time they adapted, the virus changed too. It evolved faster than they could counter it. "It's like biological warfare," Terex observed, "but using their own biology against them. Humans have been fighting diseases for millions of years," Dr. Han explained. "We're very good at it." But the real genius of Protocol 7 wasn't the virus. It was what happened next. As the bioships became unreliable, the Devourer Collective began to lose coordination. Ships stopped communicating properly. Ground forces received conflicting orders. The perfect unity that made them so dangerous started to break down, and that's when the humans struck. Captain Yoon's devastators hit the confused Devourers with coordinated attacks across all 3 human-controlled continents. But instead of using conventional tactics, they did something the Devourers had never seen before. They fought like individual humans instead of like a military unit. Each soldier made their own decisions about how to attack. Some used explosives, some used knives, some just grabbed whatever was handy and started hitting things with it. The Devourer's collective intelligence couldn't process the chaos. They were used to fighting organized enemies with predictable tactics. They couldn't adapt to 5,000 different fighting styles all happening at the same time. "It's working," Lieutenant Choi reported from her position in the northern ruins. "The enemy forces are breaking apart. They're fighting as individuals, instead of as a collective. But Protocol 7 had a price. Sergeant Kim and his team were still inside the bioship, maintaining the virus. The ship's immune system was getting stronger, learning to fight the human intrusion. "Sir, we're taking casualties," Kim reported. "The ship knows we're here now. It's trying to dissolve us. Can you hold position?" "For a while, but not forever." Colonel Park faced a terrible choice. He could order Kim's team to evacuate and lose the virus network, or he could ask them to stay and probably die. He keyed his radio. "Sergeant, you know what I have to ask." There was a long pause. Then Kim's voice came back, calm and steady. "Sir, we knew what Protocol 7 meant when we signed up. We'll hold as long as we can." Dr. Han was working frantically to find another solution. The virus was spreading through the Devourer network, but it needed constant maintenance from human operators inside the bioships. "There has to be another way," she muttered, running calculations on her computer. "What about automation?" suggested her assistant, Dr. Park Min Seo. "Could we make the virus self-maintaining?" "Not with current technology. The Devourers adapt too fast. We need human intelligence to stay ahead of them." That's when she had the idea. The terrible, brilliant idea that would change everything. "Colonel," she called. I need to talk to you. Privately. They met in a small chamber, deep in the crystal ruins. Dr. Han's face was pale but determined. There's a way to make the virus permanent, she said, but it requires a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? A human sacrifice. Someone has to merge with the devourer collective consciousness, become part of their network from the inside. Colonel, Park stared at her. That's impossible, and even if it wasn't, it would be murder. Not murder, martyrdom. And it is possible. I've been studying their neural interfaces. A human brain could theoretically integrate with their collective, bringing our unpredictability into their system. Who? Dr. Han looked him in the eyes. Me? I designed the virus. I understand their biology better than anyone. And I'm already dying. What? Radiation exposure from studying their technology. I have maybe 6 months to live. This way my death means something. Colonel Park wanted to say no, wanted to find another solution. But the tactical situation was clear. Without the virus network, the devourers would eventually adapt to everything the humans could throw at them. There has to be another way. There isn't. And we're running out of time. On the screens around them, the battle reports were getting worse. The devourers were learning to fight as individuals. Soon they would combine individual unpredictability with collective intelligence. When that happened, they would be unstoppable. Dr. Han began preparing for the final phase of Protocol 7, the phase that would end the devourer threat forever. But the cost would be higher than anyone had imagined. The final battle began in the dark space between Valeth Prime and its moons. The remaining devourer bioships were trying to escape the system, but the humans would not let them go. Captain Yoon's devastators had commandeered several Valeth crystal ships, turning them into assault vessels. They pursued the fleeing bioships like wolves chasing wounded elk. We can't let any of them escape, Colonel Park ordered from the bridge of the Indomitable Will. If even one gets away, it carries everything they've learned about human tactics. But the largest bioship was too massive to chase down with conventional weapons. It was the size of a small moon, covered with defensive systems that had adapted to every human attack. This was where Dr. Han would make her sacrifice. She stood in the transport bay of the Righteous Fury, wearing a specially modified spacesuit. Cables ran from the suit to a backpack containing the most advanced virus she had ever created. Are you sure about this? Colonel Park asked over the radio. I'm sure, Dr. Han replied. Her voice was calm, but Colonel Park could hear the fear underneath. She was about to do something that no human had ever attempted. The transport bay opened to space. Dr. Han activated her thrusters and flew toward the massive bioship like a tiny spark approaching a dark planet. The ship's defenses ignored her. She was too small to be a threat. Just one human in a metal suit, carrying what appeared to be scientific equipment. Dr. Han found a neural interface port near what she thought was the creature's brainstem. She plugged her suit's cables into the alien technology and began the integration process. At first, nothing happened. Then the pain started. The devourer collective consciousness was like nothing any human had ever experienced. Millions of minds thinking together, sharing memories and instincts across vast distances. Dr. Han felt her individual identity beginning to dissolve, but she held on. She focused on the virus code she had memorized, feeding it directly into the collective neural network. The devourers tried to expel her, but human stubbornness was something they had never encountered at this level. Dr. Han's mind refused to be absorbed or destroyed. Instead, she began to change the collective from within. Integration successful, she reported, her voice strange and distant. Beginning final protocol. The virus she carried was not like the others. This one was designed to attack the devourer's genetic memory itself, the part of their minds that stored the knowledge of all the species they had consumed. But more than that, it carried a new memory, a new instinct that would be passed to every devourer that survived. The memory of humanity, the knowledge that somewhere in the galaxy lived a species that hunted the hunters, Colonel Park watched on his tactical display as the bioships began to change course. Instead of fleeing in an organized retreat, they scattered in all directions. Their collective coordination was breaking down. "They're afraid," Lieutenant Choi reported from her scout ship. "I'm reading massive stress indicators from all the bioships." But it was more than fear. The Devourers were experiencing something they had never felt before: doubt. Doubt about their place as apex predators. Doubt about their ability to consume any species they encountered. Sergeant Kim's voice crackled over the radio from inside one of the bioships. "Sir, the creatures in here are going crazy. They're attacking each other. Some of them are just shutting down. The virus was working perfectly, but the cost was higher than anyone had expected." "Dr. Han, what's your status?" Colonel Park called. I'm still here," came the reply. But her voice sounded different. Older, more distant. "The integration is deeper than I expected. I don't think I can separate from the collective. Can you maintain the virus?" "Yes, but I won't be coming home." Colonel Park closed his eyes. Another good person lost to this war, but her sacrifice was saving not just the Valeth, but potentially every species in the galaxy. High Counselor Terex watched the battle from his station. His skin had shifted to colors that had no human translation. Wonder mixed with horror mixed with gratitude. "You're Dr. Han," he said quietly. "She is becoming part of them?" "Yes." "And this will stop the Devourers forever?" "Not stop them. Change them. They'll still exist, but they'll carry the fear of humanity in their genetic memory. They'll think twice before attacking advanced civilizations." Terex was quiet for a long moment. "Your species fights in ways we never imagined. You sacrifice individuals for the good of others. You turn your enemy's strengths into weaknesses. You are not like us." "No," Colonel Park agreed. "We're not." "Are we safe from you?" Colonel Park looked at the alien leader. "Do you plan to attack human worlds? Do you want to hurt innocent people?" "Of course not." "Then you're safe. Humans protect those who can't protect themselves. We hunt those who prey on the innocent." The last bioship finally broke away from the planet and fled toward deep space. But it carried more than just Devourer survivors. It carried Dr. Han's virus, and through her, the genetic memory of humanity's existence. Over the following days, reports came in from across the galaxy. Devourer fleets that had been attacking other systems suddenly stopped their assaults and retreated. Some abandoned their conquests entirely and disappeared into the dark spaces between stars. The few xenobiologists who were able to study captured specimens found the same thing. The creature's genetic memory now contained an instinctual fear of a species they had never encountered, but somehow knew existed. They knew about humans, and they were terrified. 6 months later, Colonel Park stood in the same command post where he had planned the Kepler 442 campaign. But now he wasn't planning an attack. He was reading requests for help. The message came from the Altair system, another peaceful species under attack by hostile aliens. The attackers weren't Devourers this time, but something else, something that thought it could prey on the innocent. "Sir," Lieutenant Bay handed him the communication. "They're asking for advanced weapons and defensive technology." Colonel Park smiled. It was becoming a familiar pattern. "Prep the ships," he ordered, "and send a message to the Altarians." "What should we tell them, sir?" "Tell them that Earth doesn't send technology. Earth sends something much better." He looked out at the training grounds where new volunteers were preparing for their first interstellar deployment. Marines who had heard about the Kepler 442 mission and wanted to be part of humanity's new role in the galaxy. "Tell them we're sending our Deathbringers." The message traveled across space at light speed, carrying a promise that was already becoming legendary among the galaxy's peaceful species. When innocent people called for help, Earth answered. Not with weapons or technology, but with something far more dangerous. Earth sent its hunters, and throughout the galaxy, predator species were learning to look over their shoulders, wondering if the humans were coming for them next. The age of humanity as the galaxy's apex protector had begun. Dr. Han's sacrifice had done more than save one world. It had given every peaceful species in the galaxy hope. Hope that somewhere out there, someone was hunting the hunters. Someone was making sure that evil didn't go unpunished. Someone was proving that no matter how dangerous the galaxy became, there was always something more dangerous hunting in the dark, and that something was human.